Thinking of selling your home? Did you know the New York tax law for 2019 actually affects how much you walk away with at the closing table? Coming up. Hi, this is Kai with the Wong team, helping you better understand everything you need to know about New York City real estate. Today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Tim Allomong from Allomong & Associates. How are you doing today, Tim?
Great, Kai. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Tell us a little bit about your firm.
So I'm a New York City real estate attorney. My practice involves representing purchasers and sellers of real property here in New York City, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, really all over the state. A lot of our purchasers are investors, a lot of our sellers are investors, so we're used to that aspect of the buying process. As we also have a lot of first-time home buyers and residential property transactions on a daily basis.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
So today I want to talk to you about the New York tax law, the new tax law that just came out in 2019, right. in April of 2019. And how does it affect, from the seller's perspective, how does it affect how much they're walking away with?
Section 1402 of the New York State tax law was amended by the New York State Senate and the Assembly for the 2020 New York budget. Okay, so it takes effect on July 1st, 2019. Any real estate transaction occurring after July 1st, 2019 will be subject to this law, unless you have a contract that is from before April 1st, 2019, and we close after July 1st. So that will still be grandfathered into the original state transfer tax. The state transfer tax that's been imposed is 0.4% of the purchase price. In other words, that is $2 for every $500.
Okay.
You can take the purchase price, divide that by 500, multiply that number by 2. That's how much the seller is paying under the current transfer tax law.
Got it.
So once we get to July 1st and the new law kicks in, then anything over $3 million will be increased to 0.65%. Another thing to keep in mind with the New York State transfer tax is that it is allowable to have a continuing lien deduction.
What does that mean for the viewers that don't know what a continuing lien is?
Right. So a continuing lien deduction is another term that we use for purchase CEMAs, which you might not know about that either.
Okay.
So in other words, this is when a seller is able to assign his or her current mortgage to the purchaser at the time of transfer. So at the closing, all parties have an opportunity to save in closing costs when that's set up. It's something that the New York State offers, but New York City doesn't offer in the transfer tax. That's one of the things that has to be negotiated early on.
So regarding to purchase CEMAs, we actually did another full video describing what it is and how it benefits you. You can check it out in the card above.
With the purchase CEMAs, it's also very important to understand when you're negotiating with the buyer that the savings on your state transfer tax can be split with the purchaser with their savings on their mortgage tax. The seller has to pay a state transfer tax and a city transfer tax. The new tax law as amended affects their state transfer tax.
Got it.
It doesn't affect their city transfer tax. So the city transfer tax for New York City remains the same. The New York City transfer tax for sellers on anything $500,000 or above is 1.425%.
Okay.
The seller's transfer taxes are a one-time tax. They're due within 15 days of the closing. If you're selling real property, like a condo or a single multifamily home, then your title company is going to pick up the taxes and pay them with the city. If you're selling a co-op, your attorney is going to do that. So another thing to note is that the New York City transfer tax that the seller pays is not eligible for the continuing lien deduction. So in other words, the New York City transfer tax is always paid in full by the seller, and it's not something that would be calculated into a purchase CEMA where the two sides are splitting closing cost savings.
So let's recap
Sure.
on what we discussed today.
So Section 1402 of the New York tax law has been amended, and one of the changes is that sellers of real property and co-ops within the state of New York who are selling property that is $3 million or more, your state transfer tax will go up from 0.4% to 0.65%.
Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate the information you shared. This is brand new information. We literally just found out last month. So I wanted to bring Tim today to share it with our audience, just so you always want to be prepared and know exactly what you're going to be walking away with, whether you're buying the property or selling, correct?
Yes, of course.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you guys for watching. If you're new here, consider subscribing. On this channel, we share with you buying and selling tips, market updates, and neighborhood guides. So if you have any questions or topics you want us to cover in a future video, please leave in the comment below. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye.